Please, here we go. Roll camera. Sound.
Sweet. 15 Charlie, take 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Action.
Okay, a toast to friendship, love, and healing. Cheers. Okay, a toast to friendship, love, and healing. Cheers.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Friday, December the 18th, 2020, 11:07 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And it is a beautiful day today. I don't know. Hey, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Is it really a Christmas movie? Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. I've given my thoughts on this in the past. Let's do it again today because it is Christmas. Well, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire... Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? This is a debate that, and you know, I've said this before. You know how you know Die Hard's not a Christmas movie? Because people have to keep telling you it's a Christmas movie. No one goes around going, you know, Home Alone's a Christmas movie. You know, Home Alone's... You want to know why? Because it's fucking obvious it's a Christmas movie. That's why. Listen, this is obviously... There are some people out there that get really riled up about this. I think this is, you know, just fun and funny. I certainly can see the argument that is made for Die Hard being a Christmas movie, but it really boils down to what the litmus test is, what your benchmark is, what your bar is for what a Christmas movie is. And then in that sense, then we can focus on sort of, is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not? For me, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, at least not in the traditional sense, for several different reasons. And there are people that have written articles about this, that have written think pieces about this, that have, you know, dive into it and will walk out onto a plank and die at the hands of yes, this is a Christmas movie. I am very aware that, I believe it was one of the writers or something like that said that, yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I'm very aware that Bruce Willis himself has said Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. And you know, I'm aware of the narrative. I'm aware of the plot. I've seen the movie 5,721 times. There's nothing you're going to say that I'm not aware of. But it comes down to this idea of what a Christmas movie is when you think of a Christmas movie. For me, a Christmas movie traditionally is something where Christmas itself has an effect, the season, the holiday, the spirit of Christmas. Yeah, but Dave, in Die Hard, just shut up. You'll get your turn. You'll get your turn. No, but in Die Hard, it's what the fans are crazy. But Dave. Anyway, so the spirit of the holiday, right? The spirit of this thing keeps flopping around on me. Woo-doo-doo-doo, yay, Christmas, so exciting. It's our last Friday before Christmas, yay. I thought it was very festive today. So, yeah, so the spirit of Christmas, right? That fundamental sort of that fundamental message about being selfless, about love and family. But Dave, just hang on a sec, okay? Calm your fuck down. About family, about love, about the spirit of the holiday, and what Christmas at its core, okay, the root, the fundamental foundation, you've often heard me say that, in regards to Halloween, is, and what it means to be selfless, to be somebody that, and you have an arc, right? Traditionally, in traditional Christmas movies, characters go through an arc. Usually they start out in some sort of fashion, not giving a fuck about what it means to be selfless, what it means to give and not receive, what it means to, whatever the case is, right? There's many different ways you can articulate that. There's many different ways that you can execute that. There's many different ways that you can implement that. But that's traditionally how a character's arc begins, right? And through their journey, through the process of the plot, they learn through the spirit of Christmas, through others as well, who help them to learn through the spirit of Christmas and what it really is all about, not the mayhem at the malls and the giving and the buying and the, or the giving, the receiving and the buying and, the money, all this shit and the, sometimes that's a part of the movie because it's trying to show you what it's really not about. And again, I'm talking in the traditional sense, right? In the traditional sense of why you do have people saying it's not a Christmas movie, right? Really, this is, again, as I said at the top of the show, it depends on what your litmus test is for a Christmas movie, right? At the end of the day. But traditionally, that is what a Christmas movie is, right? You can point to Home Alone. You can point to It's a Wonderful Life. You can point to Miracle on 34th Street, One Magic Christmas. Most Christmas movies, traditional Christmas movies, have that narrative, have that arc, right? Kevin from Home Alone, right? He starts off as a selfish little snot, and through his journey, through the loss of his family, right? Through that loss, through the spirit of Christmas, the season, and having those conversations with the old man, right? And even he helped the old man reconnect with his son at Christmas time. The spirit of Christmas in these kinds of movies, yes, you could literally say, and I'm going to make a point here in a second about Die Hard. Technically, you could say this about any narrative, but it's usually through the spirit of Christmas, the season, through others that these characters and their arcs discover the selflessness of what it is really all about, right? You generally see that. And of course, it's set against the backdrop of ho, 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 and Christmas and jingle bells and Santa's sleigh and, whatever it is, right? Christmas Vacation. There's another one, right? It's a comedy, but, he has an arc in a vacation sort of way. That to me and to many people is traditionally what we think of as a Christmas movie. Now, there's many different ways that you can write that. They don't always have to be sappy, It's a Wonderful Life, like really traditional, right? You know what I mean? It doesn't, no, you can have fun with it and you can definitely make it modern. But when it comes to Die Hard, and I understand, listen, there's nothing you're going to write in the comment section that I don't know. Literally. And that's not me. It's just, I've heard it all. I've read it all. I know the arguments, and I'm not here saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to let you understand that it's not black and white, really, at the end of the day. I think there's a lot of shades of gray. And why people like me don't necessarily feel that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And one of those fundamental reasons is because Yes, John McClane is going home because it's Christmas to meet with his estranged wife. Yes, the terrorists chose Christmas time because, the building's there's not gonna be too many people there, and we think that maybe, it'd be easier to take over the building because it's the holidays and there aren't gonna be too many people and such and such and such and such. I get all that. But the outcome, the reason why Holly and John McClane end up together, because she doesn't want anything to fuck to do with him. She doesn't give a fuck about him. Now, does she love him in some sort of way because he's the father of her children? Sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a soft spot there. 100%. 100%. But at the end of the day, she wasn't thrilled to see John McClane show up. She doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't give a fuck, right? If Die Hard had happened on the 4th of July, another holiday, right? A big weekend where things are shut down, the same result would have happened in terms of the narrative. You would have put John McClane in let's say it's a 4th of July party, not a Christmas party, right? You can run the same narrative, and by the end of the story, Holly and John would have still ended up together. Holly and John didn't end up together because of something they learned through the spirit of Christmas and what it, is all about. They ended up together because McClane saved her fucking life. That's why they ended up together and saved everybody's life. Well, not everybody's life, but certainly he put himself on the line and saved a lot of people's lives, including Holly's. That's why they ended up together, right? That is ultimately why. Whether that happens on the 24th of December or July the 4th, they're still ending up together. And you can set it on July 4th, and the same sort of thing's going to play out because the arc, the spirit of Christmas and what it means to be selflessness isn't woven into Die Hard. Christmas is just the backdrop. It's just the backdrop. And they use cute little things. Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun. There's a Christmas tree in the background. It's Christmas time. Sure. But it's the morals and the messages that are instilled in you as a young child from a very early age are not woven into the fabric of Die Hard. That if it wasn't for Christmas, Holly and John would never have ended up together. Hey, thank God it's Christmas, because even though you saved my fucking life, listen, if it wasn't Christmas, John, I wouldn't be kissing you right now, okay? But it's Christmas, and I thought, well, okay, I'll kiss you, we'll end up together. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. I mean, it's just the backdrop. It's fun. It's just, hey, this action movie that takes place at Christmas time. So that's why you get a lot of people who profess that it's not a Christmas movie, because it's traditionally what you think of, right? And yeah, he's going home to be with his estranged wife because it's Christmas, but there was no guarantee that she was going to want to be with him, right? It's not like it was. John McClane was the same man at the beginning of the movie as he was at the end of the movie. His arc wasn't something that he had learned about it's not through Christmas that he learned to love his family again, or to realize what was really important in life, and no, it's through this terrorist, it's through this fucking plot. It's through this whole thing, whether that happens on December 24th or July 4th or October 8th or whatever, he's likely going to be in the same position. And Holly and him are likely going to be banging that night because he saved her life. That's why they ended up together. If that terrorist organization never took over Nakatomi? Yeah. If they never did that, there's a high probability that Holly, regardless of whether it was Christmas or not, didn't want to have anything to see him. Like, let me try that again. Didn't want to have anything to do with them. Would still not have wanted to have anything to do with him. So let's say Hans Gruber and the terrorists never existed. John goes home, right? He wants to get together with his estranged wife. There's no guarantees. She doesn't want to fucking see him. So what is it that allows her to look at him differently? What happens? You would have to then write a different movie, right? You would have to then, if there are no terrorists and there is no plot for John McClane to flex his muscles and save his wife's life, then you would have to write a different story, one about the spirit of Christmas and what it means to love and family. And it would be like this romantic comedy then. It wouldn't even be an action movie. It would be a romantic comedy. And through that, or maybe even not even a comedy, it would be a romantic drama or something. And through that process, he rediscovers, he goes home. He's a police officer. Or he doesn't go home, I guess. Is he from the West or from no, I think he's from New York. Anyway, he goes to the West Coast to meet with his estranged wife. His wife's changed her last name or gone back to her maiden name or whatever. And, it's through this journey through Christmas and then Christmas becomes a real big part of why they probably end up together at the end of the movie, right? Because it's through the spirit. It's seeing other people, other families, other relationships, conversations that John has about love and family. And then, we see them maybe, Christmas morning and he's trying to go over to the house and the snow's falling and then he's looking through the windows of other families' homes and seeing families and Christmas trees and little trains running around the Christmas tree and all these things. And then you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Christmas is really having an effect on John McClane, like really having an effect on John McClane, right? Then I would be like, yeah, I don't even know if you'd call it Die Hard. That'd be a weird title for that movie. But let's say it was, right? Then I'd be like, yeah, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. But then it would be very obvious to everybody that it's a Christmas movie. Nobody would be saying, hey, Die Hard's a Christmas movie because, yeah, of course it is. It would be right up there with Home Alone because it would have the same type of, foundation in terms of how Christmas, the spirit, the holiday is woven into the fabric of the narrative, right? So you'd be like, well, yeah, of course it is. Like, why are we even having this conversation? Does anybody have a conversation that Home Alone's a Christmas movie? No, of course not, because it's very obvious that it is, right? And those are the reasons why. So again, I think it's fun to call Die Hard a Christmas movie. I mean, maybe we should go one step further and call it a Christmas action movie or an action Christmas movie or something, because then that makes a distinction that, oh, well, the action part is really the core root of the narrative and Christmas is just kind of there, like Lethal Weapon or, what other ones are there? I mean, there's other ones too, but that's why I don't think of Die Hard as a Christmas movie, because whether it was Christmas or not, John McClane and Holly would have still ended up together because it wasn't Christmas that ultimately brought them together at the end of the movie. It was the fact that he saved her life. And that could have happened at any day, any time of year. You know what I mean? I know that's not the reason necessarily why he went home. I know that's not the reason why, he went home to be with went back to be with his estranged wife because it was the holidays and he's taking a risk and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to try this. But there were no guarantees, right? There were no guarantees. And, and there's many other holidays throughout the year that you could have shut everything down. July 4th, Memorial Day weekend, Easter, Thanksgiving. I mean, it's not like, no, it had to be Christmas. No, it didn't have to be Christmas at all. There are many other times throughout the year where Nakatomi Plaza could have been pretty vacant. You know what I'm saying? Where they were running at like 30% capacity. You know what I mean? There's many other times throughout the year where that could have been possible. And the same thing would have happened. John McClane would have found himself in a situation where he was a fish out of water. He had no socks or shoes on. He was in a tank top and he's running around the building. This could have happened on the 4th of July. It could have. Easily. The same movie could have taken place. And the only thing that would have been different was you just wouldn't have had, ho, 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 now I have a machine gun. You would have written some other witty comment on his shirt, which would have been fine, and you don't have, Christmas trees or anything. And maybe not, oh, the weather outside is frightful. But then is that a Christmas movie? Is that all it takes for you to be a Christmas movie? Is that, no, it's just a movie that takes place at Christmas time, and I hear Christmas music and I see Christmassy things. Okay, well, if that's all it is, then Die Hard's a Christmas movie. 100%. 100%. Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie if that's all it is. But if we're talking about the there I go again, the fundamental fabric of the narrative, and whether the characters would have reached their full arc, the end of their arc, without Christmas, or if the characters would have reached their full, their arc, whether Christmas was there or not, then Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. You know, would Kevin McAllister had reached the end, because he wouldn't have had those conversations with the old man. He wouldn't have convinced the old man to reconnect with his son. You know, he wouldn't have been sitting in a church, right? Which is what people do at Christmas time. You know, he wouldn't have, I mean, there's a lot of different things that started to seep into the subconscious of Kevin McAllister that was suddenly brought to his conscious mind, that it was through this process that he missed his family. He started to see people, you know, families at Christmas time, and he started to rethink. Little 8-year-old Kevin had all these cerebral thoughts, but he was starting to see that, right? It's very evident that the spirit of Christmas helps him complete his arc. John McClane, not so much. He would have, like I said, he would have been banging Holly that night, whether it was Christmas or not. They still would have, as long as Hans Gruber and his minions took over Nakatomi, it wouldn't have mattered what day or what month. And John McClane was there, you could have the exact same movie. You change a few things, like ho, 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 now I have a machine gun, all that. Yeah, you got to change a few little quips about the season, sure. But the end result would have been the exact same. Because he saved her life, you know? And whether it's Christmas or not, it's not like John McClane is trying harder because it's Christmas. Like, oh, okay, you know, I was gonna fucking save your life, like real, but you know, since it's not Christmas, I'll go about 75%. No, of course not, right? Christmas is not making him try harder. Christmas is not making him care more. It's the fucking terrorists. It's the fact that his wife is in mortal danger, and so are, like, you know, 150 other people. He still would have, I think back to my own, not my wife, obviously, but my partner of nearly 10 years, my girlfriend. And I'm thinking, well, whether it was Christmas or whether it was summer on some innocuous day like July 10th, if she was in danger in a building, I'm going to care the exact same way. You know, I'm not going to care more that it's Christmas or less that it's not. I'm going to be like, oh my God, I got to save my wife. You know what I mean? It's just, so that's how I feel about it. And I know you can point to I get it. It's Christmas time. He's estranged from his wife. He goes back. He wants to connect with his family. You know, yes. And if you had stopped there and woven a different path for his arc, then I'd probably agree with you. But when you stop there and you bring in terrorists and you have this big action movie, it's the action, it's the terrorists, it's what's happening here that causes them to be together at the end of the movie, not Christmas. Christmas is just the time of year it happened at. You know, and it's fun. It's fun to see the lights in the background, or, you know, the cop, oh, the weather outside is frightful. You know, it's a nice little accent to the action movie, right? It's a nice accent. But, you know, is it a Christmas movie for me? No, because traditionally I think of Christmas movies as movies that have all those things that I talked about. But maybe for you, that's not what a Christmas movie is. Or maybe for you, you're like, it's both. Ah! Maybe you're that kind of person. I don't know. Maybe it's both. I just think I've always, you know, I said to this person the other day, I said, one of the and I said off the top of the show, how you know Die Hard is really not a Christmas movie is that people keep having to profess every year that it is a Christmas movie. And when somebody has to profess every year that it's a Christmas movie without any sort of, it's not like the people who say it's not a Christmas movie start writing articles and doing videos how it's not a Christmas movie, and then everybody that thinks it is has to come out of the woodwork every year going, God, here we go. We got to defend our movie. No, nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing it. It's just the people who say Die Hard's a Christmas movie every fucking year just scream at the top of their lungs that it's a Christmas movie. And it's like, you wouldn't have to do that if it actually was, but you do it because it's clearly not really, but it's kind of fun to call it one because it's Christmas action movie. So it's fun to every fucking year without any sort of, nobody said, like, it's, you know what I mean? Like every year without fail, every year come the beginning of December, I know that people would every year, it happens every year. You know it, you've seen it. There will be think pieces and articles of people writing about how Die Hard's a Christmas movie. And I'm like, didn't you just write this last year and the year before and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that and the year? Why are we doing this every year? Well, because people still say it's not. Well, yeah, but nobody's writing articles saying it's not. People are only writing articles saying it is. I mean, I'm sure there's some articles out there saying it's not, but anyways, it's without it's without being prompted. So, like, I don't see the articles for Home Alone. Where's the articles for Home Alone every year saying it's a Christmas movie? Home Alone's a Christmas movie. Just want to fucking tell you, Home Alone's a fucking Christmas movie. Don't you fucking say it's not a Christmas movie. You want to know why there's no articles? Again, because it's obvious that it is. Clearly, nobody's going to say, Home Alone's not a Christmas movie, okay? I don't know where you're fucking getting that. Because it is a Christmas movie. So that's how I see it anyway. Anyway, comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts, and I have a feeling there will be because I have a feeling most people watching this video and most people watching after the fact and commenting below will likely be in favor that it's a Christmas movie, because I've noticed over the years too that it's become a very hip thing to say. Hip. I couldn't think of a better word. But it's become the in thing. It's cool, right? To say, oh, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. It's cool. It's cool to say that. It's like, yeah, I'm in. Die Hard's a Christmas movie. It's cool. Hey, it's fun to post those photos every year. Hey, I'm watching Die Hard. Nobody posts videos saying, hey, I'm watching Home Alone. Home Alone. Nobody does that. I don't see anybody posting photos of themselves taking a picture of the cover of Home Alone saying, I'm watching the best Christmas movie. Home Alone. Well, they do that with Die Hard all the time. Why? Because Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. That's why. I mean, it's the only reason why, because people feel the need to keep professing that it is. And like I said, those people could come back and say, well, that's because there are people like you that keep saying it's not. No, but we're not. We only keep saying it's not because you keep saying it is. We don't start it. It's just every year people just decide to do it. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's the in thing to say. I think it's been the in thing to say for a while. I think people will comment below and say it is and here's why. And they will write long paragraphs and diatribes on why it is in terms of John McClane and how he's estranged from his wife and it's the holidays and he's going home and he wants to be with his family and you have the Christmas tree and you have ho, ho, ho. And you have, the fact that it was, the time of year where they chose that time of year to take over the building because there weren't going to be too many people there and all that. I've read it all. I mean, I've read it all. I'd be stunned if there was anything that was going to be written in the comment section below on this video that I have not read about, know about, thought about myself, because I'm not somebody, you guys know me, I'm not somebody that just willy-nilly's, I try to look at both sides. I read articles from, I've read more articles from people saying it is a Christmas film, than not. Because I don't need to read the ones that say it's not. I want to read the ones that say that it is, because I want to see what the arguments are. And most of the arguments I've read, I understand. I can intellectualize. I get it. Yeah, it's Christmas time. All right. He's going home. He wants to be with his estranged wife. They took over the building because of this. And I read all this stuff and I'm like, yeah. But the conclusion would have been the same whether it was Christmas time or not. And what John goes through isn't he's not learning anything about the spirit of Christmas through his journey. He's just fighting terrorists and wants to save his wife. And I'm pretty sure he would have tried just as hard in the summer. You know, I mean, it's not like, if you can make an argument and say, well, you know what? If this was March, Holly would have died. Holly would have died because John wouldn't have given a fuck. The only reason why John cared as much as he did was because it was Christmas and he was feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. It's the only reason why he did. He was sitting on the plane. He looked out the window. He was like, Christmas. You know, he gets to the Nakatomi Plaza. Christmas. Yes, yes. You know, and that's why he tried so hard. He tried so hard because it was Christmas. Well, if you can actually make that argument and you can present quantifiable, objective evidence, then I'll be like, well, you know what? Maybe it kind of is. Because if it wasn't for Christmas, Holly would have died. Maybe even John would have died. Holy shit, maybe even more of those people would have died. Maybe the terrorists would have won. If you could make the argument that it was because of Christmas that John won and the terrorists didn't, well, that's a different story, right? It's a different story, but I don't think that's the case. I really don't think that's the case. But it's fun to talk about. It's fun to debate. It's fun to have two sides. And I do understand the funness of calling Die Hard a Christmas movie. But if you're going to call Die Hard a Christmas movie, then Die Hard 2 must be a Christmas movie. And Lethal Weapon must be a Christmas movie. And Jaws 4 might even be a Christmas movie. And there's a plethora of other movies that we can point to that take place, well, the beginning of Jaws 4. I don't think the whole movie. Well, no, I guess it kind of does. Yeah, it kind of does in some ways. You know, where we can look at the accent is at Christmas time, but that's just the time of year that this story is unfolding underneath, right? There's a lot of movies that we can point to that have that. There's a lot of films that take place at Christmas time, but Christmas isn't, the spirit of Christmas isn't woven into the story necessarily. It's just, that's just the time of year this happens to be taking place. You know, and sometimes you can have a film that takes place over several weeks. So you can see like, you know, the beginning of December, and then you see like in the middle of the movie, it goes over the holidays, right? And you see sort of Christmas time. And then we move into January, February kind of thing, and the movie continues. So, I mean, there's those movies too. You know, are those Christmas movies? You know, or are they half Christmas movies? Are they sort of Christmas movies? Anyway, it's a fun debate. I like talking about it. I'm more of a traditionalist, so you will never, I mean, I can get behind saying that Die Hard is an action Christmas movie. Maybe there might be an argument there to be made, because then you're being more distinct and you're saying, well, it's the action comes first. You know, it's really the action part that drives the narrative. It's really the action part and the narrative that's happening within the action. It's this part of the story, the action movie. It's the action movie part of the story that really drives it. But it takes place at Christmas, so it's an action Christmas movie. And I could get behind that and go, yeah, I could see that. That's kind of fun. Sure, okay. But saying it's right up there with like Home Alone and shit, it's like, no, that doesn't, no, it does. And there's actual real arguments to be made for that. But it's fun to talk about. It's fun to debate. Let's see what you guys are saying. Like I said, I have a oh, and by the way, also, I just saw Frank's super chat. I appeared on Frank and Darren's podcast, The Slaughtered Lamb. I believe it dropped yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, where we watch Die Hard. We give a real-time commentary. We watch Die Hard together. I make this argument on the podcast. Thankfully, I didn't go as long as I did here, but this is my show and that's their show. So I didn't want to go too long, but I do make that argument. And don't forget to tune into the Slaughtered Lamb podcast, Die Hard episode, which just dropped, like I said, I think yesterday. It's available wherever podcasts are downloaded. Make sure you check that out. Frank Riker, Darren Sands, of course, two of my great moderators who are the hosts of that show. Let me see. Let's grab these couple super chats here. We got Intel Wild says, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie, then Jaws 4 is a 4th of July movie. Oh, I guess it could be, man. It could be. Great to see you in here, Intel. Frank Riker says, but Dave, Bubby... Yeah, I love it. You must have missed 60 minutes. Could you imagine if it was set during Thanksgiving? Now I have a machine gun. Gobble, gobble, gobble. But you could do that. You could literally do that. But Frank's being funny. But you could literally do that. You could literally do that. You could actually write that. You could say, now I have a machine gun. Gobble, gobble, gobble. You could do it, and it changes nothing about the narrative, right? Like, okay, maybe he won't have a Christmas hat on. I think he has a Christmas hat on there. But you could have him in the elevator with the sweater on, and you could say, and you could write in blood, now I have a machine gun, gobble, 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 or now I have a machine gun, some other, I don't know, or be thankful I'm not shooting. Some sort of quip you could write on his shirt, and it changes nothing. Changes nothing. It doesn't. That's kind of funny, but it's gobble, gobble, gobble. I love it. Intel Wild sends in a generous super chat. Thank you, Intel. Says, Dave, a week ago, I was getting double full body massages with Blum. Oh, you too. You as well. I think Frank was too. He said, there's no future in film with Black Christmas. And I responded with, it's me, Billy. Crickets. He went silent. Your thoughts? Well, there's definitely no future after the 2019 remake. However, if anybody from Blumhouse wants to discuss a future of Black Christmas, I'd be more than willing to do that, because there is a future in Black Christmas, but you can't be afraid to tap into, into the mythology in what was there. And I think there's more of an opportunity to, you do something like we have done with It's Me, Billy. You open people up to this new kind of thing, but you also get people to go back and watch the original as well. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone. I don't think, maybe people were going back to watch the original Black Christmas after the 2019 film because they just couldn't, but it's for different reasons, right? You go back and watch the original after watching the 19 film because you want to cleanse your palate of the dog shit that the 19 film was. You're not going back because you're like, wow, this is so great. I got to go back and watch the original now. It's two very different things there. So, yeah. Let's see. Darren Sand says, take notice, folks. Dave's a grouchy joy sponge. It's whether you want it. Yes, Darren, you are correct. You are correct. Jason Nike says, the slaughtered lamb is awesome. Go support my good friends, Frank and Darren. Yeah, it is. It's great. I still have to catch up. I've listened to about half of them. I have to catch up on the other half. I haven't even listened to mine yet. I know Darren sent me the link. I just haven't had time to do it yet, but I am going to listen to it 100%. I'll probably catch up over the holidays. That's when I'm going to catch up because I'll have a little bit of time then. Let me see here. The Lifebox Media Channel. No, not like Home Alone. No, it's definitely not like Home Alone. That is true. That is true. But again, like I've said, it comes down to what your idea of a Christmas movie is. You have traditionalists, right? Like me, where I like sort of your traditional Christmas movie, where it really is, it's a Christmas movie. A Christmas movie to me is really as, like, nobody listens to Christmas music beyond Christmas. I mean, I'm sure there's some weird somebody that does. But generally speaking, Christmas music is played at Christmas time, right? Whether that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, whether that's, chestnuts roasting on an open fire, whatever. Pick your Christmas song, whatever it is, and you don't usually hear that on the radio or in the malls or wherever until the holidays, right? Maybe, well, for us here, because our Thanksgiving is in October, for us, the Christmas music starts at like the beginning of November, or no, I guess it'd be after Remembrance Day, which is November 11th. I believe that's your Veterans Day, if I'm not mistaken, in the States. After November the 11th, so like November the 12th is when you start to hear the Christmas music in the malls and shit like that. The Christmas merchandise goes into the malls like the day after Halloween. Now it's like it's like the week of Halloween. You can see the Halloween shit starting to move out and the Christmas shit starting to creep in. It's crazy. It's the same up here as I'm sure it is down there. So, or wherever you are in the world. But you don't hear Christmas music. Nobody plays Christmas music. Nobody's busting out their Christmas carols in July or in May or in April. Why? Because it's very distinct. Christmas music is about Christmas. There's a very distinct identity to a Christmas song. And nobody denies that, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a Christmas song. Well, it kind of is, but no, nobody denies that. Nobody denies that, Here Comes Santa Claus is a Christmas song, or whatever the case is. There are some songs, obviously, that are less Christmassy than others, but I think you know the point I'm trying to make. And I think for me, that's how I've always viewed Christmas movies, that it has a very distinct identity to it, right? There's no question it's a Christmas movie in terms of its feeling, its presentation, its morals, its messages, its narrative. It's a Christmas movie, right? It's a Christmas movie. But then there, are some movies that might be set against Christmas, but aren't Christmas movies necessarily. And I think there's some songs that might be like that, right? Like for me, the equivalent would be like Die Hard for me is the equivalent of like listening to a song that has nothing to do with Christmas, but mentions Christmas in it as a small point that they're making, whether it's a slow song or maybe it's a rap song, right? A hip hop song or something where they're rhyming lyrics and they rhyme there's like a paragraph in there where they rhyme a few things related to Christmas time. But is it a Christmas hip hop song? No, it's not. Like when you listen to it, like it's not. This has nothing to do with Christmas. It's just there's this moment there where it. He's making kind of a point, and that's kind of how I view Die Hard. It's like, yeah, that's how I view Die Hard. If that makes any sense. Woo! Boy, oh boy. Let me see. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. I'm looking for people I haven't seen before. It's great to see this. Yeah, that's right. The argument can always be made with Gremlins as well. Gremlins, that's another hot debate. Yeah, Gremlins, funny enough, I think you can make an argument for Gremlins better than you can Die Hard, I think. I don't think Gremlins is a Christmas movie either, really. But there's certainly things in there that you can point to that you could make an argument, like the Gremlins aside, them aside, because whether it was Christmas or not, if you fed them after midnight, they were still going to turn into what they turned into. So that aside, but the relationship aspect, the arc that Billy has, right, and the girl, and I mean, there's things that he's learning, and there's things. It's not really a Christmas movie, but certainly there's a few more things that you could stretch and make arguments for, which I think sets it on a better path for an argument that it's a Christmas movie. But I still don't think of Gremlins as a Christmas movie. And I'm not saying that Christmas movies have to be the old, stodgy, stiff. And I'm not saying it's not a bad movie, or I'm saying it's a bad movie. It's a Wonderful Life, but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they always have to be so traditional. I mean, no, not necessarily. There are other Christmas movies that I mean, look at Christmas Vacation, right? You don't watch that. You're not necessarily consciously thinking about the morals and values, but it's very apparent, in there, what it's really all about. And we see that great scene with Chevy Chase in the attic, right? When he's watching those home movies, and it's like, and you could say, well, he could have watched those home movies in March and he still would have felt the same way. Yes, but would he have been in the attic? Would he have been in the attic in March? Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily. Would he have been looking for what he was looking for in the attic in March? Not necessarily. And then you start to break it down that way. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating topic. Josh Russell says, Dave, is Black Christmas a Christmas movie? Is Black Christmas a Christmas movie? Well, I mean, it's a Christmas movie in the sense, no, not in the traditional sense. No, it's not. It's a Christmas movie because it has Christmas in the title, right? Whereas Die Hard doesn't, right? So it has Christmas in the title. So it's very identified with Christmas. Christmas is a big part of Black Christmas, but I wouldn't say that Black Christmas is traditionally a Christmas movie either. I don't think of it as a Christmas movie per se. It's maybe a Christmas horror movie. Maybe that's another subgenre. Maybe you could have like a Christmas horror movie like Krampus, Black Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night. You might be able to have like Christmas horror because it's the horror aspect that's key. Because that's really what's driving it at the end of the day. It's like having a Christmas action movie, right? You know what I mean? So I think it's I wouldn't put Black Christmas alongside Home Alone in terms of the same sort of type of Christmas movie. Like it's just a Christmas movie. And I think that's what it is. I think because I'm a very linear kind of person and I'm a very linear storyteller at the end of the day, I like well-defined lines. And I think that's part of the reason why I fall on the side that I do with Die Hard is because I like things very clearly defined. And I find that in today's day and age, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, that, there's no context anymore. There's no nuance anymore. There's this fight to get rid of it. Everything's black and white. Nothing means anything anymore. Things are either shit or a 10 out of 10 or, and it's like, that's not how the world works. And if you are growing up in a world where you believe that everything should be black and white, and there's no nuance whatsoever, you're going to have a miserable life because you just can't live your life that way. There's so many shades of gray in people's personalities and people's intentions and in just life in general that it's going to be very problematic. So for me, I'm a shades of gray kind of person. Like, yes, certain things in life are black and white, right? But there are many things, especially creatively, that are not. There's intention. Intent matters. Context matters. Nuance matters. And I'm not saying that they can be used as a crutch, that you can do dumb shit and say stupid shit and say, my intention was. No, you can't. You can't use it that way, right? But again, the fact that I even have to mention that is only a sign because so many people don't instill nuance into their own lives and they don't kind of think that, Dave doesn't mean that. When he says that, he's not meaning that it can be used all the time. And that's where nuance comes in, right? And that kind of thing, nuance is the big one that's completely gone. And so for me, it's more of, I like the fact that, I look at I can get on board with Christmas horror, Christmas action, right? I can get on board with that because it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me because it's not the same. I can't compare Die Hard to Home Alone. It's not the same. Not that it's not the same genre. It's not the characters' arcs don't come to their conclusions. It's not the same. It's different, for all the reasons I've been talking about here on the show today. So if somebody wants to say that Die Hard's a Christmas action movie or an action Christmas movie, I guess I should say, maybe I can get on board with that. And that Black Christmas is a Christmas horror or horror Christmas movie, because I think it should be the big part of the genre first. I think it should be what it really is first. Die Hard's an action movie first and foremost. And I think that if you want to say it's an action Christmas movie, maybe that's something I can get on board with. You want to say Black Christmas is a horror Christmas movie? Okay. Yeah. I can definitely see that. You can't deny that Black Christmas doesn't take place at Christmas time. It is. But I think Jess is thankful she survived, not because of Christmas, just because she was able to kill Peter and, you know what I mean? So yeah, anyway, that's how I feel. Chris Baber says Trading Places, Christmas movie. I don't know. I wouldn't say Trading Places is a Christmas movie. Certainly it's set against the backdrop of the holidays for sure. For sure. But then everything's a Christmas movie. Doesn't matter. And here's the thing too. how much of Christmas has to be in a movie for it to be a Christmas movie. So can you have a movie that has a Christmas scene? Or does that have to take place at, I gather that people will probably say, no, it's just got to take place at Christmas time. That's it. That's it. Just a movie that takes place at, it could have nothing to do with Christmas. It just has to take place at Christmas time, and it's a Christmas movie. There are people that believe that. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Tom Ungurian says, Dave, Home Alone or Home Alone 2? Oh, the first one. First one. The second one's fun. I mean, it certainly has its moments. But I think the first one is the better. I think it's the best. I like the first one the best. Yeah. Home Alone. It's hard to believe that movie is 30 years old. I saw it when I was 11. I remember seeing it in the theater with my sister Jill. I think I went and saw the second one in the theater with my sister Jill too. So we saw both of them. It's crazy, man. No, but I'm definitely a first one for sure. Tom the Don says, one Christmas song inserted into the credits disagrees with you, Dave. I'm sure it does. I have no doubt it does. But then does that make it a Christmas movie because it's got a Christmas song in it? What is a Christmas movie to you? If a Christmas movie is just Christmassy things, well, then Die Hard's a Christmas movie any day of the week, twice on Sunday. I mean, it is because it's got Christmassy things in it and it takes place at Christmas time. But if you're like me and you're more of a traditionalist, then it's not really, it's not a Christmas movie. Ernest Saves Christmas. Yes, I love Ernest Saves Christmas. I think that's funny. Robert Thidoff says, besides, it's me, Billy. What would have been a better name for 1974's Black Christmas? I think Demented or Who's Calling are decent choices. That's true. I think Stop Me was the original title of the script, if I'm not mistaken. Stop Me. I don't know if that would have been a Stop Me. It's a weird title, actually, for that movie. Demented, yeah, or Who's Calling? Yeah, of course, we have When a Stranger Calls, just 5 years later in 79. I would say that... I don't know. I have to think on that one. But I like Who's Calling over Demented, I think. Yeah. Travis Lauderbaugh says, I would 100% say Black Christmas is a Christmas movie. Watch it right along with Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. Well, I mean, if you watch it along with those, that's great. Narratively speaking, they're not the same. With It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Carol, there's a very distinct element to Christmas. Without Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Carol wouldn't exist because it's so woven into the fabric of the moral and the message of those two movies. Black Christmas could happen any day of the year. It just so happens to happen at Christmas time, but you could have reached the same conclusion and the same things would have happened whether Black Christmas happened at Christmas time or not. Black Christmas was set at Christmas time because of the juxtaposition of what we traditionally think about the holidays. That's why it's always, Christmas is supposed to be a, wonderful time of year, love, positivity, family, friends, that's what it represents. It represents positivity. It's supposed to, right? Being selfless and love and family and friends and being happy. That's what it's all about. The Christmas music, the lights, the time of year, that's what it's all about. So maybe not so much in 2020, but certainly in 1974, 46 years ago, to set something that was traditionally seen as a wonderful time of year against the backdrop of something horrific it's that juxtaposition of why it works, right? It's Black Christmas. It's dark, it's evil, and it's uncomfortable for people, especially at that time, to see. It's not the equivalent, but it's similar in regards to seeing the end of the ending of the opening of the original Halloween when Michael takes off the mask and we're pulling back with that crane shot, and you have this, cute little kid with, well dressed parents. He's holding a butcher knife like the size of his torso with blood on it. And it's this picturesque sort of wartime home on this Midwestern sort of street. It's this normalcy. It's this normal situation against the backdrop of something horrific, right? That's why that opening works, because it's like, oh my God, and seeing this little boy standing there with these two to-do parents in the home, it's like, what the fuck? It's that thing that you hear on the news all the time. Well, Bob was such a nice neighbor, Bob Robertson killed his wife and his 3 children, and he lives on this suburban street, seemed like a nice guy, went to work every day, said hello, he was over at your house for the pool parties, seemed to love his wife and his kids, and then one day he murders them all. In this well-to-do, maybe not quite affluent, but this nice, normal neighborhood. That's sort of what happened with Michael Myers, right? It's like, what the fuck? Holy shit, right? It's that juxtaposition. It's that contrast. It's the contrast. And with Black Christmas, it's the same thing. It's that this positivity around this holiday, but it's this darkness. And that sort of, but the story of Black Christmas in and of itself could have happened on any day of the year. And it would have been, it would have been just as effective. But when you have it against the holidays, it just adds that nice little element to it, right? Because again, it's that contrast. So, but if you watch it at Christmas time because you consider it a Christmas movie, that's fine. But we can actually quantify why it's not the same same type of Christmas movie. We can actually measure that narratively through the narrative and through the characters and through the morals and the messages of the films, of the stories. But again, it depends on what people's thresholds are for what a Christmas movie is, right? Because people just like to label it's just a Christmas movie. And it's like, well, maybe we should be more distinct. Maybe it's not just a Christmas movie, because there are distinct differences in narrative, in character development, in arcs, in morals, in messages between Black Christmas and Home Alone. Very distinct. And maybe we shouldn't be lumping it's just a Christmas movie, like making a blanket statement like that, like they're the same thing. Die Hard is the same thing as Home Alone. But it's not. Die Hard's the same thing as Black Christmas. It's not. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. Gary Rangel sends in a $2 super chat and says, A Christmas Story. Now that's a good Christmas film. I don't like A Christmas Story. Never have. Never had. That is a Christmas film, though. That is a Christmas movie. It's weird, but it is. In more of the traditional sense. It's a little, kind of crazy. But yes, in more of the traditional sense, it is. But I've never been a big fan of A Christmas Story. And it was directed by Bob Clark, same guy that directed Black Christmas. And Black Christmas is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I think it's probably third, because I think I'll go Halloween, the first Elm Street, and then maybe Black Christmas. It's in my top 5. I love Black Christmas. Love it. Love it. JK Rants and Review says Prometheus and The Ghost in the Darkness take place on Christmas. Not saying they are Christmas movies, just interesting that the movies say it's Christmas time and don't use it at all. Well, there's an example right there, right? I think that's why it's important. And people don't like to do that because it makes them think. But for me, again, like I said, not to beat a dead horse here, but it's important because it bears repeating because it's important. I'm very linear. I like to look at things well defined, and because things aren't the same. You can't, and I like knowing sometimes things are the same, but often cases they're not. And so when somebody says that something's a Christmas movie, I instantly think of a specific type of movie. And then when I watch it, like if somebody was to ever say Prometheus is a Christmas movie, I'd be like, well, then you have no standards. Like you don't, like that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense, right? But it depends on what they think is a Christmas movie, right? I mean, for some people, I don't know, what other films out there could you point to? There's a lot of movies out there that, I think 6 Days, 7 Nights, if I'm not mistaken, I know I'm dating myself here, that 1998 film with Harrison Ford and Anne Heche, if I'm not mistaken, I think it opens at Christmas time, if I'm not mistaken, but the movie doesn't take place at Christmas time. It gets so silly. It's like saying, 6 Days, 7 Nights, it's a Christmas movie. Why? Well, the first 5 minutes is Christmas. It's like, come on. Bah humbug, Dave. No! Hey, it would be humbug if I was just ranting without any good arguments. But I think it's, it's just, it's how I see it, man. It's how I see it. How I see it. If I start to turn green, then maybe, you know what I'm saying? Chris Feeney, says, what about Scream? That was released in December. Scream's not a Christmas movie. No, Scream's not a Christmas movie. So, but there's another example. What about Scream? That was released in December. Well, is that your benchmark then? A movie that's released in December? Because Scream doesn't take place at Christmas time. There's nothing Christmas in Scream at all, not that I can remember. But just because it was released at Christmas time doesn't mean it's a Christmas movie. Right? Do Christmas movies, like real traditional Christmas movies, generally get released at Christmas time? Yes, they do. Usually in and around between like the middle of November to the middle of December. Usually that's when your Christmas movies will get released theatrically or wherever. But Scream, I mean, now that's a whole other level. Now we're talking about, so our movies just, because I don't think that's I think you would be hard pressed to find somebody who would believe that just because Scream was released in December, that it's a Christmas movie. Because that's a whole other level. Because it's like, well, then that would mean that fucking The Rise of Skywalker is a Christmas movie, and The Force Awakens is a Christmas movie, and Rogue One's a Christmas movie, and Wonder Woman 84 is a Christmas movie, and Dune would have been a Christmas movie, and like that doesn't make any sense. With all due respect, no, I think it has to have a very distinct, there's no question. It should never even be up to something as a Christmas movie. There's no question. That's how I think anyway. That's how I feel. Yeah, we talked about that, Simon. Simon says, Gremlins is 10 times more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard. I would say that, I don't know about 10 times more, but I would say that I did say earlier, there is more of an argument to be made for Gremlins. I still don't really feel it's a Christmas movie, but you can certainly make the argument better for Gremlins than you can Die Hard, in the traditional sense. Yes, that's right. Let me see. What else we got going on here? Evil Alex says, Hans Gruber is like Scrooge. He is there just for the money, presents not love and family. Bruce is there for love and family. So it's the fight, what Christmas is about, what matters at that time. Yeah, but that doesn't, but that would have been the same on July 4th. It's not, I mean, you can look at it that way, sure, but then there's nothing, it doesn't rely on Christmas for that, if you know what I mean. I mean, sure. I mean, you can look at it like that, but whether that's true or that would have to be true and woven into the narrative in order for the end result to, like, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. And it's fun to look at Die Hard and to look at it from a certain point of view. But like I said, whether Die Hard happened at Christmas or not, you have to be able to make the argument that if it wasn't for Christmas, if you really want to make the argument, you have to be able to prove in some sort of fashion that John McClane would have somehow tried less if it was any other time of year. But Dave, if it was July, he just wouldn't have been trying as hard. He would have phoned it in and he wouldn't have cared about Holly. He only cares about Holly because it's family. It's Christmas. So you're saying he wouldn't have cared if he came in July? He wouldn't have cared if he came at Thanksgiving? He wouldn't have cared if he came at Easter? He wouldn't have cared if he came over the summer for a summer vacation? He wouldn't have cared as much? Well, no, I'm not. It's that kind of thing where it's basically any argument that somebody could make that Die Hard's a Christmas movie, we can easily make that it's not a Christmas movie by pointing to these types of things. It's more difficult to do with traditional Christmas films, right? It's more hard to do. And that's only because the spirit of Christmas is actually woven into the narrative. Point blank. It's not subtext. It's there. It's there. Right? So it's harder to do. It's harder to say that Home Alone's not a Christmas movie. Well, no, I mean, he could have been left home alone in the summer, and he could have been, yeah, that's true. He could have been left home alone in the summer. That's right. But when you watch Home Alone and you look at the way they weave the spirit of Christmas through it, the things that Kevin comes across, the things that he learns through the season wouldn't necessarily have been evident or even there in the summer. So he might have just been home alone for a week and his parents come home and he could have just still been his parents may have come home and he would have been like, nah, whatever. Oh, you're back. Okay. Because there wasn't that time for him to learn a few things through the spirit of Christmas. So, I mean, it's a fun debate. Excuse me. But I wouldn't, I mean, yes, you can look at Hans Gruber like that and you can look at John McClane like that. Sure, I guess. But you can look at them like that any time of year too. And then, that in and of itself I don't think that's strong. I don't think that's singular strong evidence that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. In my opinion, anyway. Disco Dev says, does the subplot of Home Alone with Shovelman help make it more of a Christmas movie? He has that reunion with his son and change of heart due to his talk with Kevin. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. That's what I meant, yeah. Because, it's what Christmas does when you get to Christmas time, and I should have said this at the beginning, but sometimes it takes me a bit to think these thoughts out. And we've all experienced this at some point in our lives. When you get to the holidays, you naturally, because consciously it's the holidays, you're aware that it's a special time of year, or we're told through society that this is a special time of year. So we start to make decisions and start to think about things differently and about family and friends. We reach out to people we wouldn't reach out to in the summer. We email people we wouldn't email in the summer. We pick up the phone, if people still do that, to talk to people we wouldn't talk to in the summer, right? Maybe we're in more of a happier mood because we see the lights and we see children laughing and sitting on Santa's knee. And of course, not so much now because of COVID, but you know what I'm saying, right? So it brings a certain part of our being and our personality out. Not with everybody, but certainly we've all felt that, right? We've all gotten into sort of the Christmas spirit, they say, right? You get into the Christmas spirit. You like to go out and look at all the lights, or, go skating, or get some hot chocolate and go to Christmas parties and little things. And there's definitely a spirit there. And that's what you traditionally see woven into the fabric of Christmas movies in one way or another. And that's very apparent in Home Alone, because you're right. It's that subplot where Kevin helps the old man reconnect with his son. The old man, there is an argument to be made that the old man may not have been at church. Now, Kevin was running away from the burglars. So you could make the argument that Kevin would have wound up at the church anyway, whether it was the summertime or Christmas. Right. But would the old man have been at the church in the summertime? Probably not. Why? Because the old man was watching his granddaughter in the Christmas choir. And that's the most important part about that scene. So Kevin winds up there, right? And through circumstance he helps him as well. But Kevin helps the old man think about his son, because the old man is sitting there feeling Christmassy, feeling sad, watching his granddaughter, knowing that he has a tumultuous maybe not that far, but he has a strained relationship with his son, right? And the old man is there and he's watching, and he's there because it's Christmas, right? And then Kevin winds up there, the two talk and this and that, and 100%. That's a big part of Kevin's arc. It's a big part of Kevin's. He learns through that. By this little 8-year-old kid helping this old man, Kevin learns a thing or two about family. Kevin learns a thing or two about what it means to be selfless. Kevin learns a thing or two about what it means to say, I'm sorry. Kevin learns a thing or two about what it means to give rather than receive. Because the whole movie, he's receiving, thinking about him. Of course, he has to. He's got to survive. He's 8 years old, right? But that conversation, that moment, that scene is one of the most important scenes in the entire film. And without it, Home Alone may have fallen really flat. You know, and then there's that great moment where he's looking out the window and he sees his son. And I love the fact that you don't really see his son's face. You never really see his son. You know, you don't really see him. You just see, you know, the back of him and his wife and the granddaughter, and they're hugging, and they, you know, the snow's falling down, and he's smiling. He's smiling because he's had an effect. Would that have happened in the summer? I don't think so, because I don't think the old man would have been at the church. You know? And so yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. That's what I mean by the spirit of Christmas woven into Christmas themed movies, you know, traditional Christmas themed movies. But Die Hard, I mean, I think John McClane would have been trying just as hard at Christmas as he would have been in the summer. You know, the ending of the movie would have been the exact same. Maybe the end credits song, oh, the weather outside is frightful. Maybe that, oh no, that wouldn't have made sense if it was the 4th of July. It would have been something else, obviously. But then does that make it a Christmas movie? Just the song itself, in and of itself? It depends on what your benchmark is, right? It depends on what you think is a Christmas movie, you know? Like I said, I can totally get behind that Die Hard is an action Christmas movie. But just a Christmas movie, just to lump it in with Home Alone, not for me. No, I don't think so. Jeff Harris sends in a $4.99 super chat, says, hey Dave, I think you missed my super chat. If you didn't, my bad. Oh, I may have. Also, I just subscribed to your Patreon again because I had an issue with my card. Oh, amazing, Jeff. Awesome. Well, welcome back. Let me just see here if Jeff Harris. Jeff Harris. Oh, no, it is there. It is there. I was going to get to it. I did see it. Thanks very much, Jeff. Appreciate it. Says, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie, I consider Batman Returns a Christmas movie. Yeah, why not? I usually watch Batman Returns every Christmas. For me, it's more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard. People outside. There you go. Yeah, I mean, that could... yeah, a lot of people have brought up the Die Hard Returns thing in terms of Die Hard Returns, Batman Returns, excuse me, as a Christmas movie. Let's see. Wasted Youth says Cobra 1986 is my favorite Christmas movie. I feel the same thing about that as I do Die Hard, although I haven't watched Cobra in a few years, so maybe I should watch it again. Ambition 25. I like that. The second Die Hard has a lot of snow and snowmobiles. There's also a scene when John kills a guy with an icicle. Just little things in there make it look like Christmas. But let's think about what you said there, Ambition. I'm going to challenge you on that. The second Die Hard has a lot of snow and snowmobiles. Okay. A lot of snow and snowmobiles. There's also a scene when John kills a guy with an icicle. Just little things in there to make it look like Christmas. It's funny how people are so, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I don't know where you're from. And maybe if you live in a warmer climate and you don't see snow or you don't get a lot of snow. I mean, I'm in Canada, so, you know, now there's no snow here at the moment. But obviously, you know, if you living in Canada is like living in the northeast of the United States, like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maine, you know, if you can live, or Chicago, Illinois. I mean, if you live in any of that part of the U.S., you know, the winters are like that up here. It's the same thing. It's not like the Arctic here. But it's the same thing. So we get real winters here. I mean, long winters, you know. When I say long, I mean, you know, it gets cold like around October, November, and then it doesn't warm up again. And I don't mean cold, but, you know, we get about 4 or 5 months of winter, let's say, right? Winter weather, kind of, you know, anywhere from like November to March, April. Then it warms up. And so when I see a snowmobile and snow, I don't immediately think of Christmas, because Christmas is only like a week or two out of 4 months. You know, there's lots of things that happen in the snow, right? Now, I know I get in principle what you're saying, but I just find it fascinating, right? It's like John McClane smashing somebody's face with an icicle. That I find it interesting that you would use that as an example, because I would never think Christmas. I would never think Christmas to see an icicle. You know, you can think that, sure, but just seeing an icicle in and of itself being used as a weapon, it doesn't make me think of Christmas. You know, no more than snowmobiles and snow make me think of Christmas. You know, I find that fascinating. I find that fascinating. And maybe you don't even realize it. Maybe there is some sort of subconscious kind of thing where, you know, for some people, they have such an association with snow and Christmas that you can have Christmas as just in the background. But if you see a lot of snow, you immediately think Christmas. For some people, it might be that way. For me, no, because there's so many things about snow and winter and icicles and that have nothing to do with Christmas. You know, I don't know. I just find that interesting. I find that really fascinating. I find that fascinating. It's just cool. It's just cool that you would use it. Like, I was expecting you to say something like, well, you know, in Die Hard 2, I mean, there was like, you know, a Christmas wreath in the background on the wall. There was Christmas. Somebody said Merry Christmas as he walked into the airport. I was expecting that, you know, not, yeah, there was some snow and snowmobiles and John McClane killed somebody with an icicle. Got some Christmas shit in there. It's like, wow, that's so fascinating. That's so cool. Interesting. Demand Hammer AR-15 for life says, Sir Dave of Toronto, I set my standards low, so I'm rarely disappointed. You know, sometimes that's the best way to go. Sometimes it is, I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes, there we go. Sometimes that's the best way to go, so you're never disappointed. Sometimes you got to do that. Let me see here. Simon, a Christmas movie can be anything you want it to be. Something you always watch together at Christmas that brings your family together around the TV. It could be Halloween Resurrection. Who knows? That's very true. It's a very, very good point. Simon is bang on. And that's another angle to look at it, right? Again, I think it's important we understand that this is like, it can be both. Right. And that's why it's important. But it's important that we understand there are differences. And I think one of the things that bothers me as I get older and as I, look at the world of fandom and the world of politics and the world of whatever is that there, like I said, there's this thing to remove nuance and just everything's the same. Nothing matters. It's all the same. It's all together. And what Simon said there was a great point. You could have fucking, I don't know, Star Wars could be a Christmas movie to you. That's a good point. But I think it's important to make the distinction that we say it's to you. Star Wars isn't objectively a Christmas movie. We can measure that, right? Because we can look at the criteria of what a Christmas movie is objectively, traditionally. Right? Of what society has said, this is what is a Christmas movie, right? Traditionally, this is what is socially accepted. This is what is generally accepted by the vast majority of the general public and movie-going audience of what a Christmas movie is, right? So therefore, that is what a Christmas movie becomes. However, we can whittle it down and then go into the little rooms and doors and hallways to the world of subjectivity and find more isolated incidences where you might find just a general movie like Star Wars or Planet of the Apes or Halloween Resurrection that is a Christmas movie. I think one of my lights went out. You can that can be a Christmas movie to that person and their family because of this criteria. Right? Now, there's nothing Christmas in it, but it's a Christmas movie for us because of this history, because of the nostalgic emotional attachment we have, because we used to watch it at Christmas time. Not because it's a Christmas movie. It just started because one day we watched it at Christmas time and we all had such a great time. It was a good memory that we decided to try and replicate it again the next Christmas by watching this silly movie, right? And then it becomes sort of a tradition where subjectively it becomes a Christmas movie for those individuals, for that person. However, like I said, I think it's important to understand that we can still measure it objectively, that it is not traditionally what a Christmas movie is. You know what I mean? What is considered a Christmas movie? We can still measure that and say that it's not, but that doesn't mean, and I think even the people that would be watching Planet of the Apes at that time of year, or Halloween Resurrection, whatever, I would like to think that they are intelligent enough to know the difference as well. To say, yeah, I totally get, like it'd be for me, if there was some movie that I always thought of Christmas time because I watched it because of my association with it, not necessarily because of the narrative, because those are the two different things, right? It can be your association with the movie and the association that you have for the season, but it's nothing in the movie itself that is driving. It's not a Christmas movie. It's just your association with the movie that you watch it at Christmas time, right? So therefore, in some weird sort of way, it's a Christmas movie to you by association, right? By memories and things like that. Not the movie. I mean, you can't say Halloween Resurrection is a Christmas movie. Objectively, you can't say that because it's not. And we can actually prove that it's not, objectively. But certainly it's a good point that Simon made. It's a good point. Yeah. I love when you guys think like that because it gets me going. I love it. Frank Riker says, is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory an Easter movie? Because in the States, it's shown as a marathon on the day networks are picking our holidays. I don't know. I mean, I don't really think of Easter when I think of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I can see why they would play it at that time of year. I mean, maybe. I mean, again, that's a movie I haven't seen in a long time. And that's the original. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is the original Gene Wilder one, I believe, right? And Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is the Johnny Depp one, if I'm not mistaken. Reese Wilson sends in a super chat and says, "Hey Dave, sat down with my nephew and watched Christmas Chronicles on Netflix, which was corny as hell, but Kurt Russell plays a great Santa Claus. He does. I haven't watched the second Christmas Chronicles yet. I really don't think it looks nearly as it looks like they've jumped. I mean, not that they did, but the first Christmas Chronicles, I actually thought was kind of cute. It was all right. And Kurt Russell he plays a good Santa. He plays a good, cool, hip, non-Santa Santa, if you know what I mean. He certainly looks like he's got the look down, but he's not the traditional Santa, of what we think of, right? But yeah, he's good, and I really like that at the end of the first one, Goldie Hawn makes that cameo appearance as Mrs. Claus. I thought that was a nice touch. And I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was all right. But the second one, I watched the trailer for it and I'm like, I gotta admit, it kind of looks like shit. Like the CGI looks garbage and not that, I don't know. It just didn't really appeal to me. It just feels like I don't know. I don't know. But I haven't watched it. I'll probably watch it over the holidays at some point. I don't know. But I did enjoy the first one. I thought it was kind of cute. Stuart Johnson sends in a £2.99 says, Dave, Jim Carrey or Eddie Murphy? Who do you prefer? It depends. I mean, they're two very different type of comedians and different type of comedic actors. I would say it depends. I'll probably lean Eddie Murphy. But it depends, right? I mean, Jim Carrey is more of a slapstick comedy. He's more of like a Jerry Lewis or, he's more, animated, and that's his strength, right? His body and his rubbery face, and he's incredible. And of course, he's from right here in Toronto. So I love Jim Carrey. Who doesn't love Jim Carrey? He's fucking amazing. Eddie Murphy is more nuanced, he's more, he's not that guy. He's more, he's funnier in different ways. They're just different. They're different. I think the best way to answer that is sometimes I'm in the mood for an Eddie Murphy movie and sometimes I'm in the mood for a Jim Carrey movie. I think Jim Carrey, one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies, and I think probably one of the last really good Jim Carrey films, was, and it's been a while, was Bruce Almighty from 2003. I think that, and it's been almost 20 years, 17 years ago, I think was probably his last really good movie. Now I'm not saying that Fun with, Dick and Jane isn't good. I'm not saying that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I think he did right after that, isn't good. I'm not saying he doesn't have other things, but I'm talking about when we think of like his last real good comedy, really good, I think was the first Bruce Almighty. Because he went through a bit there too, and stuff. I think that was really funny. I really like that. I think it's a good movie. It's funny. And he's had moments, but I don't think he's ever really, and like I say, as I said too, and I've said this before, when your identity is more of the slapstick theatrics, I have a little bit of that in me. It's funny, like there will be a point, even for myself, and there is a point for these actors that they reach a certain threshold where it's funny, but it's funny in a different way, like because they start to look like old men, and so him doing all these crazy things and faces and stuff, he's not 30 anymore. So it almost looks like it's sad. Like he looks like an old man that's got problems, that's what, and it's true. Rowan Atkinson, I've said this before, said that, who plays, Mr. Bean, about 4 or 5 years ago. He was asked if he was ever going to do another Bean movie or be Bean again. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I think he's in his 60s now, but he was close to 60 then. He's like, when I was in my 30s, it's funny when you're in your 60s, you just look like a sad, like Mr. Bean in his 30s, it's funny because he's young and you can kind of see it for what it, but if Mr. Bean in his 60s just kind of looks like a sad old man, if he's doing the same thing, you kind of feel sorry for him, So whenever you're that kind of a comedian, you do run that risk. Like I felt that when I saw Dumb and Dumber 2, it was funny. I enjoyed it, but Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, it's like, they really look old, and it doesn't look as funny. It kind of just looks like creepy. There's that creep factor that creeps in, no pun intended, right? There's that line where it's like, it's funny, but then now it's creepy because you're old, it's just strange. I don't know. It happens. It happens to the best of us, for sure. But I would say, Eddie, probably maybe it depends on my mood. It depends on my mood. See, that's another one there. Tom Ungurian says Bill Murray or Chevy Chase. It depends on my mood. I love both those guys. Love Bill Murray. Love Chevy Chase. It depends on my mood. Depends on my mood. Dave Bob Petway says, could Home Alone be set at around Easter? Sure, it could, but I don't think you would have ended up in the same. I don't think narratively and morally and the message would have been the same. I don't think you would have ended up in the same spot that Kevin did. But yes, you could set it at any time. Nicholas, says Home Alone can be set at any time, but the message of the movie is about family at Christmas. That's right. And there are things you can look at that may not have happened without Christmas, right? Like the old man being in church, watching his granddaughter in the choir. He wouldn't have been there. He wouldn't have been there in the summer, right? So Kevin may still have wound up at the church running away from the bad guys, but he wouldn't have helped the old man with his son because the old man probably wouldn't have been there, and then Kevin wouldn't have learned anything from the old man. So there's there's arguments to be made there. And I am sure there's going to be people that are going to be like, because it's like when you say Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, and I think I've handled this show. I would like to think that I've been very fair. I would like to think that I've poked fun, but I've it's all in a good way, all in good fun, I should say. And hopefully I've been able to, this keeps hurting my head. Hopefully I've been able to, but it's funny though, when people glom onto something like Die Hard is a Christmas movie and it becomes sort of part of pop culture and it becomes fun and hip and cool to say it. It becomes part of like, it's a thing, when somebody comes along like myself and says, well, Die Hard's not really a Christmas movie, people can actually get really upset because they feel almost like you're taking something away from them, or who the fuck are you to tell me it's not? Fuck, it is, because of this, and this. And then when you try to have a rational discussion, I mean, of course you can look at Die Hard as a Christmas movie. Of course you can. But I always like to break things down. And I always like to break things down and really look at it, because we live in a world where people just toss out blanket statements. Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Is it though? Yeah, it is because this. But is it? And I like to look at it like, okay, well, what is a Christmas movie? Let's look at this. Let's look at that. So, and when you start to break it down, you force people to think critically. And people don't necessarily like that. They don't like, and then what ends up happening is that they start to almost see your point and start to realize, oh, okay, well, I guess it could be a Christmas movie, but maybe Dave's right. Maybe it's not in a traditional sense. And maybe it has to be this kind of a Christmas movie instead of that kind of a Christmas movie. And then you force people feeling uncomfortable about that. They don't like it, right? Because they just like to think that Die Hard's a Christmas movie. And it's like, well, okay, it's fine. You can think of that. Sure. But there is real arguments to be made that it's not, it's at the very, if you want to say Die Hard's a Christmas movie, okay. But at the very least, I think we can agree that then that means there's different types of Christmas movies. And I think that to just say Die Hard's a Christmas movie, you have to be able to tell me, well, what kind? Because it's clearly not Home Alone. It's clearly not It's a Wonderful Life. It's clearly not, Christmas Vacation. It's clearly not It's One Magic Christmas. It's clearly not the Santa Claus. It's clearly not, there's the Santa Claus, and then there's Santa Claus the movie. Clearly, what are we, I don't want to think about that, Dave. That's too deep. It's too deep. It's just a Christmas movie. A lot of people are like that. I like to, I don't know. I just like to bring things to the table and make you guys think and rant and ramble as I do. As I normally do. Okay, we'll go for a couple more minutes here. DMT Infinity says, Dave, what are your top 5 favorite Christmas movies? Oh, God. You got to stop asking. I don't. Top 5 favorite Halloween movies. What is your favorite tea brand? I don't know. Off the top of my head, I have no idea what my top 5 favorite Halloween movies are. And I'm sure you mean movies take place at Halloween time. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. My top 5 favorite Christmas movies, I think, are easier. Well, my favorite Christmas movie, I think, is One Magic Christmas. From the mid-'80s, I enjoy Home Alone. I like the Santa Claus, Tim Allen's. I like Christmas Vacation, Ernest Saves Christmas. I don't know. And tea, I don't drink tea. Let's see here. Could Halloween work as a Christmas film? Michael escapes on Christmas, dresses up as Santa or an elf. Sure it could. Yeah. It could, but you would change. It could, but I don't think it would have the same feeling. Halloween plays into more of the superstition side. The original Halloween, same with Halloween 2 to some degree, but the original Halloween is playing more into the themes of that time of year. So I would say that it would work, but you could do that, but it would change the feeling of the movie for sure. For sure it would. Yeah, for sure it would. Tom Hungarian says, Dave, what's your all-time favorite Christmas gift you'll always remember and cherish? All time. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure. All-time favorite Christmas gift. I don't know. I'd have to think back. Like it might go back to when I was a kid and I got like Castle Grayskull for Christmas and Snake Mountain. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was like Christmas 84. I don't know. It was a while ago. I don't know. Ambition25 sends in a $1.99 super chat, says, you like Jingle All the Way? One of my favorites. Yeah, cookies. Those are my cookies. I wouldn't say that I like Jingle All the Way, but I would certainly say that it's, when it's on TV, I tend to sit and watch it a little bit. I think it's just stupid, cheesy fun. That's a Christmas movie, obviously. We can point to things of why. But it has like a superhero element to it too, which is kind of funky. I don't dislike it. I don't think it's a very good movie though. Like when you look at it like from a movie perspective, I don't think it's a really good movie, but it's it is what it is. It's like Christmas with the Cranks, from 2005 with Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't really think that's a good movie at all. And it was shot on a back lot, looks like a back lot. Everything at night is lit up like a Christmas tree, no pun intended. I would say that like Christmas with the Cranks has grown on me a little bit, but I think it's because I adore Tim Allen and I adore Jamie Lee. I said it like that because obviously there are some certain things that, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis says that I think are, you know, a little intense, and she needs to. But I adore her as an actress in terms of her movies, and seeing them together I think was funny. And Dan Aykroyd I absolutely love. Christmas with the Cranks, it's not a good movie. It's not, but it's grown on me a little bit. Maybe a bit of a guilty pleasure. Maybe it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. But Jingle All the Way, yeah. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Oliver Mercer says, what types of drinks do you have around Christmas? I know you have said you don't drink. I don't drink much. Yeah, I'm not a big drinker, actually. Do I have? I don't think it's here. No, I don't. No, it's not here. I thought I had it here. I must have put it back out there. I don't drink much really at all. I'm not a big drinker. However, when I was dropping the girls, I mean Victoria, Miro, Shelby Handley, and Malika Henny, after we were done shooting It's Me, Billy, I drove them home to their individual homes. And they all live all over the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto area. So it's not like they live all within 2 minutes of each other. I had to drive here and then drive here and then drive here. But it was fun. It was fun. And I enjoyed doing that. It allowed me to spend more time with them, and it was the least I could do for their, you know, amazing work and things like that too. I enjoyed that. Anyway, I think I mentioned this, but when I dropped Victoria off, her dad came out with a nice case of pumpkin spice cider, 5.6% alcohol, I think. And it was made in the town where they live. And I was like, oh, wow. So he gave this to us, and Shelby took one, and I took a couple bottles home. And my girlfriend and I polished off a bottle about 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago or something. It was delicious, absolutely delicious. And I still have one other bottle left that my girlfriend and I are going to have over Christmas. And it was really good. I'm not a big, when it comes to alcohol, the less I can taste of it, the better. I'm not a big fan of tasting the alcohol. You know, I've had like rye and Coke and things like that. And obviously I've had, you know, scotch and stuff. I'm not a big fan when you can really taste it. Like, it's just not a big fan. I never have been. I'm a big taste person. It's why I don't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee, not because of the caffeine. I don't drink coffee to be some sort of avant-garde, you know, ooh, I don't drink coffee. No, I don't drink coffee because I think coffee tastes like fucking shit. I think coffee tastes like fucking ass. I hate the taste of coffee. Love the smell of coffee. Love, I call it fake coffee, like your lattes, you know, pumpkin spice latte. It's like, yeah, well, that's, I mean, who doesn't like that? It's just fucking sugar. But coffee, I hate coffee. I don't like coffee at all. So, and I never have. I haven't had a coffee, like a real coffee. I've had sips of lattes and stuff, but I mean like a real coffee that you just order at like a Denny's or something. Or McDonald's ever. I haven't had coffee in about 20 years. Literally. I just don't like the taste of coffee. I hate it. I always have. So for me, when it comes to alcohol, if I can taste the alcohol and it's really bitter or whatever, I'm just like, oh, I don't like this. Why am I going to, you know, but at the end of the day, I don't think people really, especially when you're younger, you don't drink alcohol for the taste. You drink it to get drunk. That's why you drink it. You drink it to get drunk. Nobody drinks it. I mean, you know, now there are certain wines and things like that aren't too bad. Most wines I don't like either because they're far too bitter. I find red wine more bitter than white wine. There's a few white wines that I actually don't mind. I can taste it, but it's not bad. But anyways, this pumpkin spice cider that Victoria's dad gave me was delicious, and you couldn't taste the alcohol at all. And it was great. It was bubbly, and it was fantastic. So I like that. But I fucking hate coffee. No offense to those who love it, but I just don't like it. Neil Rook sends in a £2 super chat, says, Die Hard is the best Christmas movie. Yippee-ki-yay! Neil has spoken, ladies and germs. Neil has spoken. The best Christmas movie of all time. That's what he says. And if Neil says it, well, what the fuck? I mean, who the hell am I to argue? Travis Lauderbow says, love coffee, black coffee. If it's something you kind of got to grow up with. Yeah, but you see this, I mean, Bruce loves black coffee. That's how he drinks his coffee. It's not that I was sheltered for coffee. It's just that when I tasted coffee for the first time, when I was about 13, I tasted coffee. I thought it was ass. And then I tasted it again in high school. Somebody got a coffee. I thought it was ass. And then I got to college, and that's where people really start, like when you're young, you really start to drink coffee because everybody's drinking coffee and you got to stay up and study and shit, right? I thought it was ass. I just hate coffee. I'm like, and everyone's like, why aren't you drinking coffee? I'm like, because it fucking sucks. Coffee sucks. And then I love the people that go, oh no, I like coffee. I like coffee. And then they go and they order a coffee. And like, I have more respect for those who drink black coffee that say they love coffee, because that's coffee, you know? And look, if you have a little bit of milk, you know, a little bit of sugar, okay, not a big deal, right? You still like coffee. But I love those, and you know them. And I'm sure you've known them in your life, where they'll be like, oh, I fucking love coffee, man. Fucking love it. Oh, I gotta have my coffee. I gotta have my coffee, dude. Gotta have my coffee. And then they go to order a coffee. Yeah, I'll have a one large coffee, please. 3 cream, 3 sugars. And you're like, you don't like coffee. If you have to water down your coffee with like 3 cream, 3 sugars, you don't like coffee. You like cream and sugar is what you like. And in that sense, why don't you just order a cup of cream and sugar? You know, yeah, but I need the coffee taste. You know, it's like, oh, my sister's friend had a friend. My sister had a friend that was like that, would be like, up here, we would order a coffee and they would say triple, which means 3 cream, 3 sugar. And it's like, what? Why don't you just order a fucking milkshake? What are you doing? You know, it's just, I just find it funny. I've never been a coffee fan. I just never have. I know it's crazy, but I've never been a coffee fan. And I understand I'm in the minority. I do it, and not that there aren't others out there that don't like it either, but I do understand I'm in the minority, and there are a lot of people that definitely like their coffee. Let's see here. Just a couple of more, and then I have to skedaddle. I think I got all the super chats. It looks like I did. It looks like I did get the super chats. Here's somebody I haven't seen before. Alec Shambach? I think I'm saying that right. Dave, did you have a childhood Christmas movie you tended to watch every year? Mine was always Elf. Plus, H-18 is a Christmas movie with Karen Sweater. Yes, I did. Well, when I was young, I guess I'm a bit older than you, because Elf came out when I was 24. So that, I think it was 2003 when it came out. So that wasn't one that I watched as a kid. The ones I watched as a kid were One Magic Christmas, which is from 85, Christmas Vacation from 89, Ernest Saves Christmas from, I think, 88 or something like that. You know, those would be some of the ones that I really enjoyed. The Santa Claus came out when I was 15. That's the one with Tim Allen. I enjoyed that. I saw that in the theater with Bruce. There was also one that came out in the mid 80s called just Santa Claus the Movie, which was really good. I enjoyed that. But by the time the millennium hit and, you know, we were into, you know, the 2000s and things like that, I didn't really, I'm trying to think of modern, like I said, modern Christmas movie. There's not too many. I tend to go old school when I watch Christmas movies. It's like, I'm like that with comedies. You know, not that there aren't modern day comedies. Like, I thought Horrible Bosses was really funny, and, you know, Game Night was really funny, and I adore, and I know that this is not popular to say, but I adore Melissa McCarthy. I think she's fucking hilarious. I think she's extraordinarily talented. That doesn't mean that I like every movie she's done. I thought Tammy was a bit, I thought Life of the Party was, I think she should distance herself from her husband. Her husband, I think, is a funny guy. You know, he's a cute, funny guy. But I don't know if she keeps making, and I get it. Hey, listen, she's well off. She can do this now. Who am I to say, stop making movies with your husband? But Life of the Party, Tammy, were both movies directed by her husband, Ben Falcone. And they're just not that strong. Could be in the directing, could be in the writing. The stronger movies she's done, like Spy, Bridesmaids, The Heat, were all directed by Paul Feig. Now, I know Paul Feig gets a bad rap because of what he did with Ghostbusters 2016, but I actually don't think Ghostbusters, yes, it was unnecessary. I don't think it's the shit show that people say it is. From a movie perspective, if there was no Ghostbusters prior to it, and this was just a new movie, it's well made, well put together, you know, it's got some amusing moments. However, her best comedy is under him. Spy, I think, is the best one that she's done. And I actually didn't mind Identity Thief. I thought that was funny too. So yeah, I don't know. It's what the fuck was I talking about now? Oh, I was talking about comedies and things like that and how, yeah. I get it. There I go off on my tangent. But so there are some comedies of modern era that I like, but I generally always go old school. Like I'll watch The First Vacation, Christmas Vacation, Stripes, Caddyshack, What About Bob, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Who's Harry Crumb, I'll watch The Jerk, I'll watch The Party with Peter Sellers. I tend to go old school with a lot of things. It's hit and miss with me. I find modern movies, it takes, I don't know if it's because we're so saturated now or what, but there's a lot of shit that's coming out that I just doesn't resonate with me, doesn't stick with me. It takes a lot for things to stick with me, whatever genre that is. And sometimes they do it. There's a few movies that have done it. Like I said, The Heat is one, Spy is a comedy that I thought was funny, but all depends. All right, folks, that's going to do. Oh, Frank Riker says, for the sexy MFers in the chat, thank you so much, Frank. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for sending that in. Folks, that is going to do it for me for episode 129 of McRae Live. Thanks to my moderators, of course, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, for doing what you guys do. Don't forget to check out Frank and Darren's latest podcast of The Slaughtered Lamb. I am on it. We are watching Die Hard in real time together, giving our commentary, making the argument whether Die Hard is or isn't a Christmas movie. But don't worry, I do not spend very much time on it, at least certainly not as long as I did here on today's show. We get to other things. It's hilarious. I love these guys. I can't wait to be back on the show. You can download the latest version of The Slaughtered Lamb wherever podcasts are downloaded. So if you want to check that out, make sure you do that because it was a lot of fun. Thank you to the Super Chat questions that came in today. Thank you to the non-Super Chat questions, of course, that also came in today as well. I do have an announcement for Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. It doesn't look like Two Dudes will be back Monday. However, Tony and I are working our schedules to make it happen on Tuesday. It's just been a very, very busy time for us. Two Dudes has had to take a bit of a back seat over these last 6 to 8 weeks or so. We've gotten some in, but we've had to miss a few weeks here and there. But Two Dudes is likely to come back this Tuesday for an episode right before Christmas. So hopefully we can get one in on this Tuesday evening. So look out for that. Have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great rest of your weekend as well, because it's Friday. Yeah, so have a great weekend. And in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. All righty. Cheers.